actually live in a little town with only a couple hundred people. And so the LPC office did move to Cortland, Kansas, and I am located in the Cortland co-working building. I office out of a building that has a few other offices in it. People in this building work in the agriculture and rural vitality spaces, just to name a few. But we're located right off of Highway 36. So if you're ever traveling across 36 in Kansas, please stop in and say hello. But please note that that new address is on our Facebook page, website, and then the Actiongram as well. A couple other things going on with LPC is we are getting started on committee work. If you were at Ag Media Summit and signed up for a committee, you've probably heard from me and or the committee chair by now. If you did not sign up for a committee and you're interested, there's still time to do that. Just shoot me an email, Lindsay at livestockpublications.com, or shoot me a Facebook message on Facebook to the LPC page. I'd be more than happy to get you put on a committee so you could really get involved with LPC that way. I think it's a great way to not only serve the organization, but serve the livestock communications industry as well. One other thing I will note is that with the changeover from Diane to myself, there was a decision made that I guess it really came with Diane's announcement of her retirement about a year ago, that LPC would change the executive director position a little bit, in that the executive director would really focus more on membership services, membership recruitment and retention, serving the organization and its members, and relinquish that big piece of the duties of planning Ag Media Summit to a conference manager. So Tina Bowles was hired. She's already started working on AMS 2020. And so that's freed up some more time in my job description per se to focus on the membership. That being said, going into 2020, we will be working on strategic planning in January. The board of directors will be meeting in Kansas City to talk about the future of LPC. So I think at the forefront of that, we're going to be looking at the organization and seeing how we can make some changes to reflect the changing industry. As we all know, livestock communications is changing all the time. And I want to make sure, and I know the board of directors and leadership for LPC does as well, wants to make sure that this organization continues to evolve with the changes in industry and really continue to provide some membership services that you as members are getting some value out of. So that being said, if you have any ideas or things that you would really like to see out of LPC as an organization, I'm always have a listening ear for that. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Other than that, that's about all. I just wanted to say hello to you all and let you know what we've got coming down the pike for LPC. Make note, next summer in July, we'll have Ag Media Summit in Kansas City. So looking forward to being back kind of right in the Midwest and hope to see all of you there as well, and maybe catch you at some other industry events throughout the year. We will have the LPC luncheon at NCBA convention again this year, so that's probably the next LPC event that you'll see information coming out on soon.
Thanks, Lindsay. Again, we're really excited to have you on our team, and everybody please reach out to her if you have any ideas or suggestions for the organization. So now we'll get to the meat of today's conference call. I'm really excited to introduce Julie and Shauna. Of course, Shauna is one of my mentors, and I had the opportunity to work with her early in my career when I was at Angus, and there's no one who's more dedicated to livestock publishing than Shauna as an editor, in my opinion. She's so talented and puts so many hours and thought into serving our industry, and especially, of course, Angus breeders, but she's one of the best in my mind. And then Julie, I was lucky to work with her at Hereford, and she's been kind of one of my close friends, and I guess kind of I call her one of my proteges. I guess have enjoyed working with her and getting to know her through the years. But both of them have worked on some major redesigns, that Julie at Hereford and Shauna at Angus, and then Julie's now at Angus continuing the Angus redesign. And so I'm going to turn it over to them, and we appreciate them sharing their knowledge and ideas with us today on coffee and collaboration.
Yes, I'll start. I'm Shauna, and editor with the Angus Beef Bulletin now, after starting as editor of the journal there for about 20 years. And very fortunate to have Julie come on board. And she's my lifesaver now, as Angie was way back when we did some of the first redesigns of the Angus Journal back in 1998. or so. Magazine makeovers are everybody who comes onto a magazine really looks forward to doing a design where they can put their stamp on the magazine they put out, and do that with the knowledge of the readership, and do it with a vision of trying to create a publication. And now that becomes digital and print together, that really encourages readership and makes the publication inviting to an additional audience. There's lots of reasons to do a redesign, and I will caution that doing a redesign right, it is a commitment, and it's not for the faint of heart. But our friends at Modern Litho give us some of the reasons, some of the basis for why you would consider doing a redesign. And part of those is if the look and feel of your magazine is looking dated. If you look at your circulation and maybe it's floundering a little bit, and you want to increase the numbers. If you have a competitor that's coming out and looking a little bit more contemporary than you are, and maybe gaining more readers, maybe you need to look at a redesign in order to stay competitive. If your magazine is looking for a new audience, one of the things that as we went into the Angus Journal, we really wanted to attract that next generation, make sure that we were contemporary enough to include them. I would also add to that as you bring in new staff, it's important for that staff to be able to take ownership of the publication, to put their own stamp on it, to create the look and feel that's going to give them some consistency for the future. Structural changes within the book, maybe you have more advertising that gives you more pages to work with, or maybe you have less advertising and need to put in your editorial into a smaller package. Technology is constantly evolving, and so that gives us opportunities that we can add different features to the magazine, and that really helps to open it up. But you need to do that in a way that gives you a consistent look. So as you incorporate that advanced technology, do you need to do a redesign that helps you put the polish on it to keep it all looking the same? So one of the things you need to do when you sit down to start a redesign is consider just exactly how far you want to go. Are you just, and if we put this in terms of a home makeover, are you just applying a little bit of paint to make it look fresher? Are you going to go into a more aggressive remodel? Maybe you want your kitchen updated, but the rest of the house is just fine as it is. Do you want to go completely down to the studs and have a whole new look throughout the house, and maybe some rewiring and things of that nature? Or are you ready to totally burn down your look and start from scratch? Julie and I think, have some things to share here that go across that spectrum. So I'm going to turn it over to her now with some of her thought processes. As with the Hereford World, she won Flanagan back in 2018. Her and her team did. So Julie, take it away, please.
Yeah, like Shauna said, I think what is maybe interesting about our experience, what we get to share with you, is that we do have experience on all these types of makeovers, and we're going to share those with you. So when I was with the Hereford World, we did decide to go with the aggressive remodel. So it had been about 8 years since the previous redesign, and we just thought it was time to freshen up the publication. As we looked at it, we felt the foundation was in good shape. We found that our advertising at that time was still growing. Our subscription base was strong. And when we did a survey from our readership, we were meeting our mission, but it was just time to freshen it up and really spend the dedicated time to, I guess, pick apart the publication and see where we wanted to change it. So how we tackled this was through a DIY project. It wasn't available for us to hire outside consultants, but we had an excellent team in-house. And so myself and editorial artist Christy Benigno, we led the redesign. We also worked with our HPI staff in-house, and then being an association publication, we also worked with our committee from our board of directors. And really this took about a year to accomplish. We had the idea in the spring of 2016. I had been working with the Hereford World for over a year, so I'd spent some time living in it and felt confident that we can move forward with the redesign. So we talked with our board and got the okay. We discussed plans and created a timeline. And then really in the winter, Christy, our artist, did a lot of the work with coming up with some design options. And then we reviewed it in the spring. And then in our big Herd book issue in July, we launched a new redesign. And so I wanted to share with you guys the steps that we took doing this in-house. Our resource was FPO Magazine, and we just we're thankful to be able to follow kind of the step-by-step process, and I just wanted to share it with you. So we started off with our mission, and just took a look at that. Is our publication accomplishing what it was supposed to be? Next, we looked at the structure. And the structure is the flow of the magazine. Having clearly defined sections of the publication makes it an interesting read. So those sections being your A features or your real creative features, your B features. At the Angus Journal, we call them tier 2s. You have your departments and columns, and also your advertising. So taking a look at how all of that works together to make an interesting publication. And we also looked at the cover. The cover is your brand. It should strongly reflect your brand and be the template of your publication. And some of the questions you'll need to answer when you're thinking about a redesign: does your cover include cover lines? And you need to make sure that it's appealing to your target audience, and it is presenting a publication they're going to want to open up and actually read. So it's really your first chance at creating an impact. Next, we looked at the table of contents, and just something to think about. The table of contents reflects your structure. So if you have a weak table of contents, it probably means that the structure of your publication is weak or the rhythm is off. And you really want it to be exciting. That's one of the first places they're going to look inside to find the content they're looking for. And you can also use your table of contents to define stories of importance and priorities. And you can also have the opportunity to package your stories there on that table of contents. And you can also get your reader excited about checking out those stories using photos, pull quotes, and some interesting elements. Also looking at the departments. So your departments are those regular columns or parts of your publication that are in every issue. And it's often what your readers remember the most. So for our Beef Breed Association publications, that's often sale reports or sales summaries, or a column that is a regular column that runs each issue. What's unique about departments is they're both familiar and new, so they can turn to that page and know I'm going to learn about reproductive technology, but it's going to be new every time. It's going to be new content. So when you think about coming up with different department concepts, they need to be strong enough for a repeated theme, yet have enough variety in content to keep it interesting. Yeah, they should each have their own identity. And then you also need to take a look at your features. The features are the heart of the publication, but they don't really brand your publication. They can provide parallel elements, and they can also provide creative freedom. So they should look a part of your publication, but it's also that opportunity to really do something exciting with those stories. So you can incorporate sidebars, how do your decks look in those, and you really wants to help communicate the brand, but it's not the most reliable place to bring your publication. And then lastly, taking a look at production values, which is really the technical part of publication work. Does your magazine look consistent throughout the book? Is your type legible? Is it the right font size, font and size? So looking at typography, prepping for press, thinking about styles. Are your styles consistent? Are your cut line distances like consistent from your photos, and are they the same? Do the colors in your images reflect the color of the photos when they're printed? And also thinking or working to mitigate the mistakes that are made in the publication. So that's a really important part to have a professional magazine. And so we didn't include the pictures of the way that we changed the Hereford world, but some of the things that we did change was the nameplate on the cover. We looked at colors. We kept the colors consistent with the departments to help keep those branded, but they were a little bit muted. They're in the same color family, but we chose different colors. We incorporated more white space, which is one of my favorite things in all the world. We addressed the table of contents to allow more freedom to call out the important stories based on priorities. And then our artists also looked at how many columns are used on the page. So some of our features had a 2-column approach, 3 or 4 column, also based on our advertising. So I'll toss it back over to Shauna to talk about some of her redesign experience.
Right. With the Angus Journal, we had been following some of the same guidelines as what Julie had mentioned there with the Hereford World. Robert Sugar with FPO Magazine has been part of the LPC critique process, and we had the Angus Journal critique through him. We had also actually sent our designer, myself, out to New York to go through one of his workshops in hopes of doing a redesign. Market conditions didn't allow us to launch it at that time, and so and we were ready to do something pretty dramatic with the Angus Journal. One of the things that we were looking at was we wanted to create some energy and excitement with the magazine, and we brought in a new president back in July of 2017 with Rick Cavatordo, and if y'all know him, he is a whirlwind. And definitely lit the fire under us to be able to launch the redesign process. We wanted to create that energy, excitement among our readers, among our advertisers, and also among the audience. And so one of the important things for us was for the whole Angus Journal team to kind of take ownership of that process and the association at large. We had looked at our circulation, and one of the places where we thought that we weren't getting the subscriptions with the journal was with our younger generation. And so we wanted a concept that would also kind of appeal to them. So when we looked at our timeline, Rick came on board in July and set the goal for us to have a new design by our January 1 issue, which of course means going to press with December. We had a lot of things in our head that we wanted to do, but at the same time, we were also working with a new copy and design workflow. We changed our printer, and we had several large issues to go through in the fall before we were to launch that design. So fortunately, we were able to hire a creative director. We went to Tim Laurentangeli out in New York with Random Thought Studio. He had some history here with some of the folks in our office. One of the advantages of going with an outside designer to do the creative is they don't carry the baggage of the old design. They can come in kind of with that open slate and look at creating something entirely new. It's important for the people in-house to guide that creative process. And we did that as we looked at, we created an idea board out on a google.com document and let everybody within the office take a part in that. Bringing forth any idea you had. You know, is there something you want to see in the journal? Do you want to try it? Is there something that you're tired of and you think needs to go by the wayside? How far are we willing to go with what we can envision? And really, we brought our journal team in on it. We brought the whole API team in on it. We took that out to the association and asked them, and including the communications team. And then we also put together a focus group with our readers and asked them some of the same things. With that in-house, I kind of compiled that and created what I called a wish list for Tim. We brought him in and kind of went over that wish list and kind of talked to him about what we envisioned and gave him the doors wide open, do what you will. So he took that back to his studio and came up with 4 concepts that he presented to us based on how far we were willing to go. We told him we wanted something edgy, something contemporary, something that looked like we were having a redesign. He brought us back 4 different options, and we chose one of those concepts. The way we chose the concept was to we actually laid it out on the tables down in one of our conference room, and we let different groups of people come in and rate those concepts, tell us what they liked about them and what they didn't like about them. And then in the end, we also took that out to our readers as well and emailed them the concepts to where we had about 20 of our readers actually sign off and comment. We chose the one concept, and each one of those had a cover, a contents page, a feature story, and a column. We chose the concept, sent it back to him, and he designed each one of our stories in the January issue to kind of get us started into the process. As we went into that InDesign InCopy, Tim was our creative, but Mary was the person in-house who put that into a template so we could carry it forward with the next issue. Tim and Mary kind of both did half and half on design on the next issue. But our goal in-house was to try and make sure that his creative worked within our system and tweak out those differences, get the fonts to work, get the structure to where we work off of style sheets and how that fit within our system. So we went with our old style to a new, more contemporary, edgy cover that we thought would grab attention and definitely take a different approach. Our contents page is a lot more open and a lot more white space. Our feature stories, we have what we call our main features, and these are meant to be stories that can have the doors wide open. They can have any font. They are supposed to be wide open and creative and never look the same. Once one story is completed, there'll never be another one in the journal that looks like it. Our co-ops are the advertisements that are there on the right-hand side. Those are the state ads, and one of our columns, and this is to show you the difference that we made there. And I wanted to point out that advertising is as big of a part of a redesign as the editorial is, and I think the redesign here probably helped the overall look of our magazine as much as anything we did. The columns were meant to, they don't have as much text on the page, they have more photos, more illustrations. And we had kind of a push toward doing more infographics to bring people into the magazine. We thought we had a hit. We knew we had a hit. It's important to celebrate as you kind of close out on the successful completion of the redesign. And so we did that, took a breath, hired Julie and Lindsay, and then we moved into the redesign of our Angus Beef Bulletin. Which was a burner down and start fresh. The Angus Beef Bulletin is our magazine that goes out to our commercial customers. A lot of our breeders didn't even realize that the magazine existed. We wanted to create some pride from our members and being able to present that magazine to their customers. We wanted to create a magazine that would have the appeal for their commercial customers to pick it up and read through those pages. And so we took a black and white publication to a 4-color magazine. We changed the size, we changed the paper, we had some junior size ads that I'll show you here in a little bit, and we basically created an advertising rates schedule that eliminated them from the book. We looked at the advertising in the magazine and we created some premium positions that added some revenue to the book, and we added corporate advertising in the structure. Our editorial had always been kind of the overflows of the Angus Journal, and one of the points of restructuring our editorial team to give the journal a staff as well as the Angus Beef Bulletin was so that each one of us could kind of look at our audience and hone that information to our audience. The only thing that we've really left the same with the Angus Beef Bulletin is that we have that practical, profit-minded editorial focus. So once we got the Angus Journal redesign kind of out of launched, I shouldn't say out of the way, it was precious baby. Once we got our journal launched, we wanted to launch the redesign of the Angus Beef Bulletin that fall. So with our September issue, which went to press in August. And the only thing those over in the left-hand corner, lower left corner, that's the pages of editorial in the Angus Journal that were going to go to press. And so fortunately, we were able to hire Julie Mais as our journal editor. And Gail Lombardino came in as our print services lead. And of course, she has a long history in LBC and graphic design. And she was able to help us do some of the design on the Angus Beef Bulletin. We started getting into a little bit of a time crunch with Tim. He developed some initial concepts. We weren't quite there with what we wanted, and so we let our in-house staff kind of take over on the redesign of the Angus Beef Bulletin. Went through basically the same type of a process, but we had a lot more going on because we were changing the papers. We did everything from go to what a standard mailbox size is to what our bulletin size should be. We considered our postal considerations. We looked at the frequency and schedule and tied that to our sale list and when we had the most sales available to support a magazine. We went out and got new columnists. We have a veterinary column just like the Angus Journal does, but we wanted to have a new columnist so that we had a little bit different focus and appeal to our readers. So here's the results. In the black and white tabloid, we had the contents on the cover, reasoning that we wanted to make sure readers knew that there was information inside that they needed to go after. We decided we wanted to have that 4-color cover, and we still love our table of contents page. That's one of the most fun things of the whole book. Feature stories. Those are those junior size ads. Ones they're about the same size as what a journal ad is. And so we had 99 of those junior pages in one of our February issues, and it makes the editorial really hard to try to look appealing. You can wrap a lot of pure text around it, but to try and get enough full pages to have a good photo to start with was difficult. And so we actually priced those junior size pages at the same, or actually they're priced about $300 higher than what a full page ad is. And so it makes sense for our readers to go to the larger size, and that has really changed the look of the book. For our columns, it enabled us to have full page columns, and we have a different style for a regular column, one of our opinion pages, and then some of the news and notes and compiled information. one of the most important parts about doing a redesign is staying true to the details. And so part of that involves the branding style guide that gives us kind of the mood of our photos. It establishes our fonts, it establishes the colors that we use in our color pattern. And then of course we have a style guide that goes along with our template and talks through all the fonts and the styles that are available from that. And then also with Bulletin, we have an electronic supplement with the Angus Beef Bulletin Extra, and it had a redesign as well so that it stayed consistent with the publication. From there, I'll turn it over to Julie and let her say how they made the journal even better.
So in January 2019, so this year, we launched what we call the English Journal 2.0. And so basically, what the new journal team did was make a few additional cosmetic updates to the redesign that Shauna and her team did. Knowing that they just went through this massive remodel, we lived with the publication for about 6 months before we decided to make any changes. And really, we just wanted to I guess it's just a few small adjustments really, and then making sure this publication fit our lifestyle, if you think about it, in a house remodel. So some of the things that we took a look at was, I would say the major one was a table of contents. And this is a conversation I had with Shauna many times about how we loved the look of the table of contents, which the old one there you can see in the bottom right-hand corner. But we literally felt boxed in with the nature of our advertisements and having more advertisements in the sales seasons in the fall and spring. The number of pages we have in our publication varied greatly, anywhere from, I don't know, about 60 to 80 pages to something close to 200 pages of editorial. Can really vary. So we wanted to take a look and see how we could create a table of contents that would allow us all of those changes and having some more flexibility. So what we came up with was so going from a spread to 2 left-hand pages, we added more white space. Every issue, the table of contents has looked different, but it has a consistent look and feel. We also used colors to help show where these stories are in the book. So our magazine is basically 4 main sections. We have your herd, your association, your life, and your business. And so any of those B feature stories, we wanted to note by color where that falls in the publication. And it's really given us an opportunity to do some fun and unique things. One of my favorite things we've done so far, as you can see there, we had a story on beef sheet. So I don't know how many times you would open up a beef publication and see chopsticks, but this might have been my first time. So I thought that was something kind of interesting and unique. And Jamie, our artist, has been able to incorporate some interesting graphics. That's okay. And then we just did some finishing touches. We really, what was top of mind as we were looking through this page by page is staying true to the new brand. So the Angus Journal team was new, but we loved the redesign and all of the work and effort that went into it. So we didn't want to really stray from that, but we made just a few adjustments. So you can see in this column here, we just added more white space. We got rid of that icon to allow for some more white space. And let's see, we have a lighter strip on photos, and on some of our photos in our B features, there are no strips. There's just a small change. We adjusted the colors just a little bit based on how they're showing up from the printer. In general, we have more white space, like I said, in more simple columns. We have a new sidebar style, and then also with the January, we were able to get just a titch whiter paper. As much as we would have loved to have gone with a little bit heavier paper, that wasn't economical for us. but something we could do that was pretty inexpensive was going a half a step brighter, and just, I think it's made a great difference. But a lot of what we did wouldn't necessarily be noticed probably without us pointing it out, but I think that's just part of the process. Each month we're looking at some of the small things to change.
Okay, so kind of to summarize a little bit, wanted to present a few tips here. One of the things that I hope that we've kind of impressed is that a redesign is not a small thing. It takes a lot of thought and a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of time from your team. So you really want to evaluate your reasons for the redesign, and is it important to do that now? Do you want to do it in little bits and pieces, or do you want to do something big and with a big launch? That's not necessary in every magazine's instance, and you need to tailor that to how it fits you. Define how far you're willing to go with your redesign, and that's kind of part of that whole process, and then set a realistic time schedule. I would say that our time schedules were pretty narrow, and I would have felt more comfortable with a few more months added to each one of those, but at the same time, you do need that deadline, and you do need that goal of when your launch is, or you can play with things forever before you're ready to hit the button. And realize that this isn't the end, that you do need to start looking forward to the next redesign. So it doesn't have to be stop today with what you have and don't look at it for 10 years. Do look at your resources and decide whether or not you want to hire a creative team to work on that. That resources can be that you don't have the in-house time to be able to devote to a proper redesign. So your cost factor, it might be more efficient for you to go with an outside designer. But they do come at a cost, and if you have the time within your staff and the desire to do that in-house, that's definitely an option as well. Keep it fun, keep it positive, try and do things that, and especially when you're working with in-house designs and you're critiquing your staff's designs, you need to make sure that that's put in the proper mind frame, and so that everybody's having fun with it and it doesn't become something that's a thorn in somebody's side. Make your changes purposefully. We like to see something new that we work on, but readers can be a little bit slow to adopt to changes. And once you move their cheese and they have to look around for it, is it worthwhile? And we definitely think on all the designs that we presented that it was an improvement, and our readers would certainly have backed that up. Another thing to look at is, can you maintain it? You don't want to start backsliding as soon as you have that redesign out. Photos and graphics are very important, but they cost as much as the editorial does. So be prepared for that and be ready to keep that in play. Build a template and define what's format and what's freestyle. Like I say, with those Angus Journal, the main features, those are freestyle, and the artist has their creative license to do whatever they want to do there. But then we've also built in those tier 2 features that are a lot more templated, a lot more recipe, because we have so many pages to deal with. We wouldn't get the book out the door if it was all freestyle. The templates need to be kept up to date. We're on version 5 for the Angus Beef Bulletin, and I can't imagine what you're at now on the journal. Plan for the future. Things do change. Kind of get things set up for your redesign now, so that you can start building in, that what you want to have changed. Build a little file cabinet or a folder and put in layouts from other magazines that you like, thoughts from LPC that you like, so that when you get ready to sit down and do a redesign, that you can provide some guidance. This is just a quote that Julie had found that I think really kind of puts polish on things.
Yeah, just speaking to, you just have to pay attention to small things and
And with that, I think we'll open it up to any questions or.
We have one on the group chat. Did you have to justify taking up more editorial space with additional white space in the design?
And I would say no. That was actually part of the thought process between them with the magazine. We can put anywhere from, like Julie says, 60 pages to, I think the most editorial pages we've ever had in a journal was 297. And that can be a lot of words to put in the page. Adding that white space to make it more appealing for people to read made a lot more sense to us than putting more words in the magazine.
Yeah, I would say we're planning our 2020 calendar now and the story assignments. And I don't think we have fewer stories. The stories are a little bit shorter in order to account for the white space. So something like a story might have had a 2,000 word feature, and now we're asking for around 1,200 words to account for being able to open up those layouts.
Saying that too, I will say that we're both looking at how we can do extensions online, and so present the content in a different place. Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have questions? You can unmute your screen and ask them online, or you can put them in the chat there and we can share them with Shauna and Julie. Well, maybe somebody's thinking about questions. I will go ahead and share our coffee and collaboration for October. Portia Stewart from Farm Journal Publications will be talking about how to create scary good video, and it'll be on October 30th from 10 to 10:45. So our theme next month will be on videos, and we hope everybody can join us. We have put together a committee for coffee and collaboration, and if you'd like to join that committee, we'd love to have ideas, people to share with us what you'd like us to have every month on coffee and collaboration, or if you just want to shoot us some ideas and not be part of the committee, we'd love that too. Just what you want to hear. You know, we started coffee and collaboration as a way to reach our members every month and be able to share knowledge and information amongst us and network when we can't be together every month, you know, in person. This gives us another way to kind of network and grow as professionals on a monthly basis. So anybody else have any questions, thoughts, concerns? If not, Shauna and Julie, thank you for sharing your ideas and your process with us. I apologize, I forgot to point out when we were starting this, you know, we were here, both the World and then the Bulletin won the Flanagan Awards, and so here in the last few years, so they both, obviously their hard work has paid off, and their teams behind them winning our top award the last few years. So I encourage you to check out their publications and look at what their teams put out, because they are award-winning publications. So if you have any other questions, I'm sure